KXOK, LP St. Louis. Good morning, St. Louis. Welcome to the Bowl Hole. What a glorious Thursday we have for you today. Got to work Mizzou men's basketball's last home game. I want to talk a little bit about that because it has been a pretty tough season for the Tigers from a performance and record perspective, but something I noticed about Coach Gates and why I do think he's the right man for the job. I mean, we're right in the middle of, not a lot going on, but a lot on its way. Right. We're in the middle of Cardinals spring training, opening day, not for a while, a lot to shake out there. Maybe I'll talk a little Cardinal baseball today. The Battlehawks are a month out from returning to St. Louis. In the XFL, they're starting to sell the upper level seats. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to talk about, I got into a little Twitter tiff or an X tiff with somebody who is tired of the St. Louis sports fan bringing up Stan Kroenke. So I'll talk a little bit about that and my thoughts on that. I do want to talk NFL because the draft is coming up, and this is a huge draft for quarterbacks. And right now, the NFL is so AFC leaning with such all the good teams in the AFC, and there's so many good storylines coming up before this draft. The NFC could start to build themselves and get a little stronger in this draft with the quarterbacks who are available. So we'll talk a little bit of that. Joe Pott's going to join at 8:30 to talk SIUE men's basketball. They're in the OVC tournament, won their first round game last night over Eastern Illinois, 68-57. They were up 17 at half. Eastern Illinois made a run in the second half, cut it to 6, but SIUE held on for the win, and it was really never in doubt. I mean, yes, Eastern Illinois made a run and cut it close, but the Cougars led throughout. So good for SIUE men's basketball. They take on Morehead State tonight. I want to talk to Joe Pott about that here at 8:30. Also may pick his brain about the Cardinals too, since he does a little pre and post game work for the Cardinals on the big KMOX on the post game show, pre and post game show. The Blues are winding their season down. Trade deadlines this week. The only interesting thing coming out of the Blues camp is if they're going to trade any of their current players. Buchnevich is the guy who most other teams want because he's got another year on his contract, and he's a good offensive player. So he's a guy that you could get a pretty handsome return for. Everything I'm hearing is that the Blues are asking for a lot back. And so will somebody pay that ransom will be the key. That's going to be the key for the Blues because the Blues are not buyers, but they're not full-blown sellers either because, quite frankly, too many players are wrapped up in contracts they can't move because of the no trade clauses. So a guy like Torrey Krug, who you could move easily and get a nice return for. Last year, I think, or was it? Yeah, was it last year? I think he made it clear he was going to veto any trades. And that's his prerogative. That's the contract the Blues signed him to. And I know fans sometimes get upset by that. Oh, that's selfish. No, the player's looking out for his best interest. And they have to be a little bit selfish, because if they don't look out for themselves, who looks out for them? Hockey doesn't have a union. So there are players that certainly you could trade if it weren't for the contracts they were under. So the Blues are kind of stuck. They've got a couple of players they can move, Buchnevich being one. I know a lot of people have been talking about Jordan Kyrou. Why would you trade him? Young goal-scoring talent. I don't get that. And then there's like a player like Scandella, who you could trade, but you're not getting anything of value back. And then is there a defenseman, in the minor leagues that you really want to take a good look at that's on the way, in lieu of trading Scandella for like a 6th-round pick or a 7th-round pick or something. So the Blues they're kind of hamstrung. They can't do a ton of moving around. And but it'll be interesting if they move Buchnevich, what they can get for it. So we'll see. And that's where the Blues sit. And again, Cardinals are in spring training. City is just getting started. March Madness is coming up, but our local teams are not going to be in it. Missouri's not going to be in it. St. Louis U's not going to be in it. Lindenwood did not make the OVC tournament. SIUE might be the only local chance for a team to get into the NCAA tournament, because if they win the OVC, they're in. We're in sort of a pause right now in terms of storylines. And so I certainly want to talk about the Cardinals. And look, I listen to sports talk radio, and all of the minutia around spring training, Lance Lynn pitching simulated games on the backfield. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. How did Lance Lynn look in a simulated game on the backfields? Oh, that's coming up next here in the, come on. The Cardinals are pretty much set, right? Offensively. I mean, the interesting story that will continue to be at play throughout the season is Oli Marmol capable of managing this team? We all know why he was hired, and he's a baseball guy. He's been in the organization a long time, but let's be honest, he was handpicked by our president of baseball operations to run and manage analytically and manage to what the front office wants. So, is he capable of putting a lineup out on the field and leaving it alone? Let these 9 players play. I did like the signing of Brandon Crawford, the guy from the Giants, the shortstop, longtime Giant shortstop, several times in the All-Star game, has had a great career, and I think he's going to be a great guy off the bench to play shortstop if something happens to Mason Wynn, and you've got a veteran there to help Mason Wynn in his first full season. I've loved that signing. But you're really, what are we talking about here? Like, to me, it seems simple. Contreras and Herrera are sharing the duties at catcher. Arenado's your third baseman. Wynn's your shortstop. Brendan Donovan's your second baseman. Paul Goldschmidt's your first baseman. And then Jordan Walker, Lars Nootbaar, and the other outfielder is escaping me at the moment. I know Nolan Gorman will get at bats, so he'll be a designated hitter. When Contreras isn't catching, he'll DH a little bit. Matt Carpenter should not be starting baseball games. Your team's in trouble if he's going to start baseball games. He's a guy that you bring off the bench. He's a guy that maybe spot starts once, maybe twice a week. Brandon Crawford is a backup shortstop to Mason Wynn. Maybe he lets Wynn have a day off here and there and gets a start. So I know there's going to be a lot of talk and minutia around the Cardinals, but until we get this thing started, the most interesting thing is the rotation with Lynn, Gibson, Gray, who's now hurt and will probably miss opening day. Miles Michaelis, Steven Matz. And then, interesting, what are they going to do with Liberatore and Thompson, Zach Thompson, the two lefties? To me, I think you saw at the end of last year, Liberatore was really good coming out of the bullpen. Really good. He could be your Andrew Miller type. Big lefty out of the pen, can throw multiple innings if you need him to, and he can let it rip. He doesn't have to hold back and pace himself for 4 or 5 innings. And Liberatore's got great stuff. He just hasn't been able to put it together in the rotation. So is he a guy that could be a hammer in the bullpen? That could be valuable and interesting to see how that plays out. Zach Thompson finally put it together at the end of last year, had a lot of good starts, 4 or 5 in a row. He's a candidate to be at the back end of that rotation. So there are some interesting things going on, but we're just underway. And I literally heard someone say yesterday, spend 2 or 3 minutes talking about how smart it is for Lance Lynn to be pitching simulated games on the back fields. It's good for him to do. And I'm like, that's not what I'm going to talk about on my show. Who's excelling in the bunting drills? Does anybody know? How's base running going? The other thing I'm really interested about when we get to the season, and we're going to talk more as the season gets closer, certainly when we know kind of the final roster. I've been enamored with this Victor Scott guy since we had Andy Carroll on, who covers the Springfield Cardinals and the Cardinals down in Springfield. So we're going to talk to Andy again when we lead up to the season. He also covered the Battlehawks last year, so we'll certainly have him on again. But when he and I talked about Victor Scott in the minor leagues last year, the guy stole 90 bases in the minor leagues. And last year, baseball saw an uptick in stolen bases with the new rules, the pitch clock, and the bigger bases. The stolen base started to make a little bit of a comeback last year, which is good for the game. It's so good for the game. So one thing I've talked about on the show over and over and over, the problem with baseball is not that they're 3.5-hour games. It's the fact that they're 3.5-hour games with very little action. You're talking about 3.5-hour games with 15 strikeouts, 8 walks, 3 or 4 home runs, no steals, no triples, no diving plays. No, you know what I mean? Like, it's the action. No one bitches about, excuse my language. No one complains about the 3.5-hour football game. No one complains about college football. I worked the Mizzou games. They're 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes. I don't hear one fan when I'm walking out of there go, oh, that was so long and boring. No one says that for football games because there's action throughout the game. Baseball that's the one rule that seemed to work. Again, the pitch clock thing to shorten games. Stop worrying about shortening games. Do new rules like the bigger bases. That helps the base runner, helped uptick the stolen bases. That's a real thing. So this Victor Scott is a throwback to the Whitey days. This is a 90 base stealer in the minor league. This is Vince Coleman. So I'm excited to see if he gets to the big leagues this year. I want to see my St. Louis Cardinals steal more bases. Tommy Edman, by the way, was the other outfielder I was missing there. So, and Edman he's going to be delayed because he had the wrist surgery. So I don't know if he'll be ready opening day, but that's there it is. Nootbaar, Edman, Walker, Goldschmidt, Donovan, Wynn, Arenado, Contreras. That's it. Ivan Herrera is your backup catcher. He catches a couple times a week because Contreras is not a great defensive catcher. Nolan Gorman will be your DH most of the time. So I really hope the Cardinals run out. You looked at some of the playoff teams last year. Those playoff teams ran out pretty much the same 9 every game. They didn't play mix and match on a Tuesday night. Brandon Crawford at 36 years old in his career, he has a .05 better on base percentage. I'm putting him in the lineup today. No. Play your guys. Plus, you could talk about analytics all day long. There's something to be, there are no analytics for, I need reps. Like if you're a baseball player, I need reps. There's no analytic for that. Like there's no analytic that says Lars Nootbaar needs 20, 25 at-bats easily per week, 30, 35, 40 at-bats per week. There's no analytic that tells you how good these guys are when they're getting reps. But I can tell you, and they'll tell you if you ask them. I want to play, and I want to play every day. I don't want to be playing every other day or 2 out of 3 days, or put me in the lineup. They can't get in a groove. They can't get on a roll, get in a routine, get themselves going. If they go 2 for 4 with a couple of extra base hits, and then the next day that analytics tell you shouldn't play him because he's not good against this type of pitcher. The analytics are good for a lot of baseball, but they should not be the end-all be-all. We've talked about that. Should not be the end-all be-all. So you've got to let these guys play. Anyway, to me, that should be it. There's your starters. But if you think about that, as we head down the rest of spring training, barring injury, this offense has a chance to be really, really good. Think about that. You've got the 2 young power hitters with Gorman and Walker. Then you've got at the bottom of the order a guy like Mason Wynn, who will be in his first full season, who's got all kinds of potential and speed. Contreras was right on his career numbers last year. He does that again. And Arenado and Goldschmidt. That's the meat of your order. I mean, think about this meat of the order. In no specific order. Gorman, Walker, Arenado, Goldschmidt, Contreras. There are a lot of teams in baseball that would love those 5 guys right in the middle of their batting order. And then you've got a guy like Lars Nootbaar, who has to stay healthy, but he's an on-base machine. Tommy Edman will be healthy. He played with a bad wrist all year last year. Dylan Carlson will get playing time, and he should be able to kind of sub into all of the outfield spots if there's injuries or one of those players does need a night off. You've got Dylan Carlson. Can he do something this year? Brendan Donovan's an on-base machine. You look at the top of that order. If you start the batting order with Nootbaar and Donovan both getting on base to lead to those 5 thumpers, man, I'm telling you, this offense could be really good. I'm excited about it. So I got into this little Twitter tiff with this guy who apparently at an STL City game, or maybe it was after an STL City game, there was a group of fans, I guess, and he made a comment about it on Twitter that started the Kroenke sucks chant. And he was complaining about it. We're done with that. Stop doing that. We're quote unquote better than that. We should. Why do we continue doing that? It's over. The Rams left like 8 years ago. It's old news. Blah, blah, blah. We don't want football here anyway. He went on and on. And I responded, and I, as nice as I could, and I said, no, we're not done with it. We'll never be done with it. And here's, it's not because, well, it's partly because I'm a poor sport. I'm a baby. But I will always be bitter. And let me frame this up. The St. Louis sports fan, if you just think about the St. Louis sports fan, we're not LA where it's fashionable to show up to the Dodgers game 45 minutes after it starts. We're just going to stroll in and get ourselves a martini, cross our legs, and wear our finest outfits to come to the Dodgers. We're not the New York Yankee fans where we're going to yell and scream at everybody and tell everyone they stink. We're not the Boston fans where they're going to scream at people. We're not the Philly fans who throw snowballs at Santa Claus. We're St. Louis. We're passionate and proud sports fans. I'm telling you, my view on this is when the Rams left, the big thing was, oh, I'm still going to follow the Rams. They're my team. It's not the players' fault. And I don't understand that because for me, I root for the St. Louis part of it. I root for the St. Louis Cardinals. I've been a St. Louis Cardinal baseball fan since I was walking. Baseball fan, played baseball, grew up watching baseball, collected baseball cards. It was baseball for me. That was my sport. And the St. Louis Cardinals are it. If they moved to Orlando and became the Orlando Cardinals, I'm done with the Cardinals. I'm done. St. Louis is what I root for. I am not I've never followed, watched, cared about professional soccer on any level. And when it was announced we were getting a soccer team, I started paying attention. I love listening to all the soccer talk when it comes on our local sports. I'm not an expert on it, so I don't talk about it much on my show. I've grown to really enjoy watching the game. Really have. And credit to my man Joe Pott, who's coming on at 8:30, hiring me to do some play-by-play work over there. I've gotten to learn the game more because I've called some games at SIUE. So I've learned soccer. And I've become a fan because it's St. Louis. I can tell you, I wouldn't be following professional soccer if STL City didn't come here, if we didn't get that team. The Rams, when they announced in 93 or 94, I think it was right at the beginning of 94 that they were moving after the season, coming to St. Louis in 95. I watched as many Rams because the local stations were like, well, if the Rams are coming here, we're going to put Rams games on TV so the fans can get to know them. I rooted for the 94 Los Angeles Rams because I knew they were going to be in St. Louis in 95. The St. Louis football Cardinals left. They went to Phoenix. I tried to root for them for half a season. I couldn't do it. They're in Phoenix. They're not my team anymore. I root for city over organization, right? And I do think a lot of sports fans in St. Louis root that way. They root for St. Louis. They are St. Louis fans, right? Look, when St. Louis University, when the Billikens are good, they sell out Chaffetz. Those aren't all St. Louis SLU alums. Those are St. Louis sports fans who want to come root for St. Louis University. So my take on it is Stan Kroenke told publicly the world that St. Louis sports fans were not good enough to support. Not good enough. Can't support three teams. Can't fill the stadium. Meanwhile, they were losing on purpose. And we knew they were leaving. It's the same general manager, Les Snead, that has built a Super Bowl champion in LA. He was here. You're telling me, oh, he learned how to become a GM when he got to LA? No. They were losing on purpose. And Stan Kroenke verbally told everybody that you are terrible. He basically looked me in the face and said, you're a bad sports fan. You can't support three teams here. Your St. Louis is not a worthy NFL market. Said it out loud. Said it in his report to the league as to why he wanted to move. That's why I'll never be over Stan Kroenke. That's why I'll never be over the bitterness. That's why I will always love when fans start the Kroenke sucks chant. They can do that for 100 years. I'm all over it. I could be 100 years old, barely hear TV blaring in the old folks' home. And if I hear on TV, Kroenke sucks, it's going to make me smile. So don't tell me how to root. Don't get on here and say, stop it with the Kroenke stuff. It's no good. It's come on, we're better than that. It's over. It's been 8 years. It's never over. It will never, ever be over. I want to beat every team he owns. I don't want to see any team that he owns succeed. And anytime the fans, especially at Battlehawks games in the spring, if they start that Kroenke sucks chant, now my mic will be off. I won't be able to turn my mic on. But I'll be up there chanting along with you. Because he told you as a St. Louis sports fan, he told you were terrible. And the whole time, the reason you didn't show up was because he lost on purpose to give himself an excuse to leave. To show the league, see, I need to get out of here. Look, the city of St. Louis carries a lot of blame in that move. That clause in that contract was ludicrous. So St. Louis has their own axe to bear in that move. It's not just about the move. It's what Stan Kroenke said about me as a sports fan. And I will never, ever, ever forgive it. And I will always enjoy the Kroenke sucks chants. And I will always root against his teams. And I am not ever and never for 1 second did I root for the Los Angeles Rams when they left St. Louis. Not for 1 second. I don't care what players were on the team. Wasn't the players' fault. Of course not. Players don't have a say in that. But anyway, so I got into this whole thing about on Twitter. My Twitter is @RandyMoVoice if you want to go back and check it out. But it didn't get ugly or anything. I just responded to him and was like, no, don't tell me how to root. Yeah. I hate Stan Kroenke. I always will. I'll always be bitter. And I love yelling Kroenke sucks. I'll do it all day long. How dare you? How dare you? All right, we're going to take a quick break. Joe Pott on the other side to talk SIUE men's basketball. Hey, they're the only local men's college basketball team that has had a good season. You might want to pay attention. SIUE basketball, Joe Pott coming up next.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6922 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchatas and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open Tuesday through Sunday. El Potro, 6922 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland. Find them online at elpotrostl.com.
At Fernandez Law, we represent people who have been hurt by the negligence or wrongful acts of others. We provide professional and compassionate representation to the Hispanic community in their native language. We know it can be overwhelming and frightening to deal with police, insurance companies, and doctors. We can help you, whether you have been the victim of a reckless driver, hurt by a defective product, or suffered a catastrophic injury or death in your family. We serve Missouri and Illinois and will fight for you and your family. Fernandez Law. 314-621-1252, 314-621-1252, or find us on the web at gonzalofernandez.com. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
It feels good when we make the right decisions, like when you choose the perfect song for a special moment, or when you choose a good night's rest after a hectic day. It's good as making the right choice on insurance. And that's why Steve Martinez is a State Farm agent and is right here in St. Louis to help you choose the protection that you want at a price that you want. Steve will explain everything about your coverage with State Farm so that you know what to expect if the unexpected happens. With Steve Martinez, it's easy to make the right decision. Call him today at 636-227-7888. That's 636-227-7888. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Are you a company who needs help recruiting and hiring full-time professionals in the areas of engineering or information technology? Then call Steve Tucker at Talent Edge. Steve has over 25 years experience in recruiting as a partner and can really give you the edge you need. Also, calling all candidates looking for new opportunities in engineering or IT. Steve will help match your skill set to the right opportunity. 314-276-0074 or check out Talent Edge at talentedgellc.net. Once again, 314-276-0074. Talent Edge.
Yeah. We all mine. Yeah. Come on. So living it up. To everybody that be living it up, we say. So living it up. Come on, baby.
That's my man Dan Kurtz's walk-up song. My buddy Kurtzy. I like that walk-up song too. I think I could be good with that walk-up song. Although I always thought my walk-up song, I feel like it would be. I like Thunderstruck. That's got a good. And considering when I played high school baseball, I had anything but thunder in my bat. I was a singles and gap hitter. I was never a power hitter. So to have a Thunderstruck as my walk-up song would be fantastic because it would be like the antithesis of what you're about to watch at the plate. Oh, hey, a looping single to right. How about that thunder? I still hit that way in men's softball. I have been a lifelong singles hitter. It's a good thing I was good defensively. All right. Speaking of walk-up songs, let's ask Joe Pott. Joe Pott joining us here, men's basketball play-by-play man. Joe, what would your walk-up song be if you walked to the plate at Busch Stadium?
I am partial to Billy Joel, so I would probably use the song Pressure.
There you go. I like
good
that.
Opening riff.
Definitely good. You got to have the good opening riff.
I think so too.
Yeah, like you can't have a song where the words start immediately. That's not good for your walk-up song.
Yeah, I agree.
And can we, this is not going to go over well with St. Louis, but could we ban all country walk-up songs? I'd like to ban all the country walk-up songs. Can we ban that?
You would severely limit what currently is used by a lot of Cardinal players too, or at least has been.
I know. I don't like it. But anyway, all right. Let's get into SIUE men's basketball. You know, I mentioned as we went to break, the only right now team having a good season in the St. Louis metro area, in our area, is SIUE men's basketball. They get the first round win last night in the OVC tournament. And I know Eastern Illinois made it close in the second half, but SIUE led throughout and dominated much of that game versus Eastern Illinois.
They did. They played really well. You know, first of all, I don't care what level you're at when you get to the conference tournament, when you get to postseason basketball. It's so fun. The Ohio Valley Conference does a great job here at Evansville. You've been here, obviously, a number of times and understand that. So even though you're the last game, the 9 o'clock game, there was a really good group of SIUE fans out there, and I think the Cougars felt that. And, it was the only lead that EIU had was when it was 4-2. It was tied at 1.44, and then SIUE went on from there.
SIUE, you know, I feel like first of all, the OVC is wide open, right? I think Morehead State was kind of running away with it and then came back to the pack towards the end of the season, and it got all jumbled up in the middle of the conference. But when you just talked about the tournament, when you get into the OVC tournament, it is so important to have veteran players who have been there before, who do not shy away from the limelight, and in fact, crave the spotlight. And SIUE has several of those type of players, veterans and players when the lights are on the brightest, they excel. Talk a little bit about those players for SIUE.
Well, Rayshawn Taylor scored 25 points, hit 5 3-pointers. His first shot was a spinning jumper from the middle of the lane. And I said at the time, I said, boy, this could be a sign of things to come when a shot like that's going down. And it just happened all night for Rayshawn Taylor. I talked to Brian Baroni, the Cougars head coach, before the game, like we always do. And he said the first year that Ray was in the program, you know, he was hurt. And he was coming back from a knee injury that first year, and I had him go through the layup lines anyway, put on the warm-ups, go through the layup lines, so that he would have his first experience in Evansville. So it would be as many times as possible on this floor. And here he is, 4 years later doing this. And of course, DeMarco Minor, who had a tremendous tournament last year with 27 points and 32 points in his 2 games, goes for 16 and 14, his 4th consecutive double-double now. And he tied his career high with 14 rebounds. Those guys certainly were the engine that drove the Cougars last night.
And Rayshon Taylor, a local kid from Collinsville, who has had a great career amidst the injuries. He's had several knee injuries. And DeMarco Minor, you just said 4th straight double-double. He's a guard.
He's a guard. He's 5th in the conference in rebounding.
Yeah.
He's a 6-foot guard.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he leads the team in assists. I mean, so you've got Minor and Rayshon.
His 100th last night.
Yeah, you've got Minor and Rayshon Taylor in the backcourt, 2 veteran scorers who also do the dirty work. And then you've got the Wright brothers. Talk a little bit about Shamar and Lamar Wright. I feel like them coming back for this last season, they just look so much more. And I know they did last year, but I don't know, something about them. They're a calming, smooth presence on the floor, those 2 guys.
And both of them, by the way, scoring in double figures last night.
Yeah.
Shamar went for 14 points, 6 rebounds, a couple of assists, 2 steals, and Lamar scored 11 points, grabbed 3 rebounds. I mean, that's they have legitimately been this program for now 5 seasons. They're 1-2 in all-time games played at SIUE. Shamar has over 150 games played. Lamar is approaching 150 games played. And these guys, as Brian Baroni will tell you, took a chance on him when he was a first coach. The Twins will tell you Brian took a chance on them to bring them to SIUE together as a pair, and it's just worked out fantastically. They have been just outstanding representatives of the SIUE program.
Also wanted to talk a little bit about, and I guess this is understated. The Cougars have a player, and talk a little bit about him. I don't know how much my audience will know about Terrence Thompson. I've watched him now over the last few weeks, pacing behind the bench when he's not playing. He's been hurting all season. He's got a knee injury, right? And he has been gutting through these games. Watching him when he comes out of the game, he won't sit because he doesn't want to get his knee. He wants to keep that knee loose. And he walks and he gets treatment and he paces and he stands and he gets back in the game and he's wincing on the sidelines, gets back in the game and just gives it everything he has. Tell my audience a little bit about Terrence Thompson at SIUE.
And actually, too, he ended up having a hamstring injury on the trip to Tennessee Tech and then completely missed the next few games. So coming back last night on his birthday, by the way, to get back in the starting lineup, played 27 minutes last night. Before the injuries, he was your starting 5-man.
Right.
Has become a really good passer out of the post, just a really good defensive player. So, yeah, extremely important to have him back in the lineup and back just getting some minutes on the floor. There was a play last night where Eastern Illinois was driving, and I forget who it was, driving in from the left side, came right in on the left block. Terrence Thompson did nothing but, as my broadcast partner Christoph Kendrick said, he walled up. So he just stood straight up, right? So he stands straight up. The player kind of has to hesitate. DeMarco Minor gets a shot block from behind. I mean, that's what it does for you to have his, again, veteran presence in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, and Coach Baroni is leaning on these veterans. He didn't go to the bench too much last night. The Cougars didn't get a lot of bench scoring, and that's the thing.
None.
Yeah, I know. And he gets
0 points off the bench.
So he gets these guys that have played a ton. Look, if you have to call on these bench players, though, they'll perform. They have all season, but that's the philosophy, right? You get to this point in the season and you get to the tournament, you've got to lean on these veterans who want that spotlight.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the bulk of the scoring, as you said, has been done by the starters anyway. But anytime those guys' numbers have been called, specifically Arnie Sikanis, the big 7-footer that comes off the bench, or in some cases starts at the 5 spot, Desmond Polk, who is, again, another 4-year player for SIUE that gets a bunch of minutes out there, has been a much improved shooter. You have Brian Taylor, who is Rayshon's cousin, who is a DeSmet product. So all of these guys, when they do get the opportunity, have stepped up. But absolutely, they have relied on the 5 that start the games, the 5 veterans, the 5 super veterans that are in the program.
So the Cougars will get tonight, 9:00 right here on KXOK, the Cougars versus Morehead State. Morehead State, it seemed earlier in the season they were just going to run away with the number 1 seed, and they came back down to earth. The Cougars give them problems and have given them problems even when they were sort of dominating the OVC. I think the Cougars we split with Morehead this year, correct?
They did, and they played probably one of the best games for SIUE this year at Edwardsville, mid-January. It was a game actually that was on ESPNU, and SIUE held Morehead State to 48 points. It was just an absolutely a defensive clinic that they just, every single play it seemed like that Morehead ran, SIUE sniffed out. Even in the game at Morehead State later in the year, SIUE played really well. It ended up to be a 10-point loss. But, and by the way, it was in the midst of like an 18-game winning streak at home for Morehead State.
Right.
But you're right. They came back down to earth. They ended up as one of the co-champs, but there were 3 co-champs in the league.
Yeah.
And they dropped all the way to the 3rd seed, which again gives you an idea of how wide open the OVC as a league entirely is. And I think SIUE, I don't think they are shying away from, and of course they're not going to shy away from any opponent, but they're not shying away from this one. They know that they easily can go toe to toe and certainly have a really good shot of winning this game tonight and going to the semifinals.
So what's the, in your view, as you get your, I know you're going to be frantically getting your game prep ready for tonight. What are going to be the keys you're going to look for from the Cougars tonight in order for them to knock off Morehead State?
Here's the thing. Here's why they match up so well, and what Coach Baroni has told me several times, and it's not just this year. It's been several years. Morehead State is really good because they're really good at what they do, if that makes sense. They run their sets. They're really good at running those sets. But what SIUE has been really good at is defending those sets, identifying the plays that Morehead State is going to run, whether it's an out-of-bounds play, whether it's out of timeouts, whether it's a half-court set, and they have defended them really well. And because Morehead State is pretty consistent with what they run, and again, they're really good at it, so it makes sense. Be good at what you do, be consistent at what you do,
right.
But it allows you to be able to defend that. And if you can be diligent in your defense, recognize what Morehead State is going to run, that's where they can be defended. And that's what SIUE has done really, really well. And you have to give credit to assistant coaches like Colin Schneider and Ryan Hellenthal, who put those game plans together and put those scouts together. And obviously the guys execute really well.
9:00 tonight or thereabouts. How late did you guys start last night? I didn't watch the first half, but I did tune in, watch the entire second half. What did you guys start on time?
We tipped about 9:13. I think it was actual tip time.
Yeah.
That first game in the evening session, the Southern Indiana and Tennessee State game, ended up as a kind of a slower game, a surprise, a really tight conference game. That's the number 8 seed in Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
But basically playing at home here in Evansville, and they gave 5th seed Tennessee State all they could handle last night before TSU ended up advancing. So yeah, I would expect it'll be about 9:00 or close there too.
So 9:00 on ESPN Plus, and right here, if you want the radio call, KXOK right here, Joe Pott will be on the call for
Obviously,
SIU.
you want the radio call.
Well, yeah, and by the way, you know how easy it was for me to time that up last night? I'll give a tutorial here real quick. So what I did was it is easy. Like all I did, the radio call is behind or ahead, behind probably of the video feed. So I just paused whatever I did. I either paused the TV or the thing, and I timed it right up, and I listened to you the entire second half and watched the game. I mean, what am I going to do? Listen to the OVC guys? No, man, I'm going to listen to Joe Pott. Hey,
It is so much fun though. It's just it's such a great time of year.
Yeah, and Evans, it's just it's so disappointing that the SIUE women couldn't be there this year. It's just what a tough season for the Cougars. Bright future, so many great young players, but they just got hit with the injury.
We were having a conversation about the SIUE women in the media room last night, and people just talking about what obviously how much of a change there was when SIUE lost KK Rodriguez, and it's not simply just you lose the score and you lose those points. It completely changes the way that SIUE plays, and B, that you're going to now defend SIUE, and it obviously completely changed the trajectory of that season. And I mean, everybody we talked to, said, well, there's no question, SIUE would have been here if things would have gone differently. So yeah, it's disappointing. Samantha Quigley-Smith and her team won a game here last year in Evansville. So, and I think everybody believes that they'll be right back here next year.
Oh yeah. And it's not just that. It's not just defending SIUE. It's KK was also their lockdown defensive player. So now you've got,
yes, you're right.
You've got different defenders. Your rotation of defenders changes when KK's not the one locking down the ball or the other team's best scorer. So yeah, I mean the entire complexion of the team changed, and everything had to be redone on the fly with her missing the season. But yeah, I mean a lot of young players got good minutes, and she's so well respected in the conference. Everybody knows the Cougars women's program is fine, and they'll be back next year. So.
Coach Sam was in the stands last night cheering on the Cougars. So it was great to see her.
Yeah, I did want to try, and if you don't mind, if you have a couple minutes, I wanted to throw a couple Cardinals questions at you. I know you do the pre and post for KMOX for the Cardinals. I wanted to see for you, just what are your two, when it comes to the Cardinals, your top two storylines during spring training? What are you most interested in as spring training starts to get into full swing here?
Surviving it maybe, because now he's got
injury-wise,
that is on the shelf for at least a little bit with that hamstring injury. I don't think, it's not alarming yet, but it is certainly concerning. This is obviously an older roster. I think it was evident there were a couple of things that the Cardinals were looking for when making their offseason moves. One of those things being innings. And Sonny Gray was a big part of that. And so, you're just hoping that this is mild, as they say it is, and that even if he doesn't make opening day, perhaps, it's early in that first month that he's able to come back and give you as many starts as you expect in the innings. Because if not, then obviously, things change there, because you need those innings from the starters to save your bullpen to ultimately have a better season than you had last year. That was a huge issue. The starters not going deep enough, and the bullpen, too many innings on the bullpen, and then it starts piling up and it becomes injuries to the bullpen. So there's certainly that. And I think obviously the other thing is, in those signings they were looking for was a change in the way the clubhouse was running, the change in the attitude from the clubhouse. A lot of players have said that, and so that's why you go get veterans like Lance Lynn and Matt Carpenter. That's what we're told anyway, is that these guys are going to change the way that clubhouse looks and feels, and what does that do for you? And so it's hard for me to imagine that it can be worse or as bad even as it was last year. The division hasn't done anything, the rest of the division.
Right.
So the opportunity, it feels like the opportunity is there to, at the very least, get back to winning the division. But I don't think that I'm out of turn in saying that, I still wish maybe there was one more move. Jordan Montgomery is still unsigned.
For sure.
That certainly would be, I think that would go a long way, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel like they're just maybe a move short of really being perhaps even a contender in the National League, not just in the National League Central.
Yeah, and I talked about it in the first segment. I think there's a lot of teams in baseball that would love a middle of the lineup that included Gorman, Walker, Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Contreras. And then you've got 2 on-base guys. If Nootbaar and Donovan can stay healthy, those guys get on base. So the lineup to me is really exciting. Gorman another year. Hope he can stay healthy. Walker his second year. Win his first. I mean, to me, that lineup looks like it could be pretty dangerous. And I agree with you. I love the philosophy. Go get guys who throw innings, because last year they won 60% of their games almost when they got a quality start. And so you go get innings guys. But on the flip side of that, the innings guys are older. And so can they stay healthy? And is it just going to blow up in your face if they can't stay healthy? So
that's all I think valid concern.
And plus, I know you'll dive into this as spring training goes on further. I don't think I know half of the names of the bullpen. I don't think I know who is in that bullpen right now. You know what I mean? Like, they've got all these young guys, and are different guys that they've traded for, or guys they brought in. I feel like that's been another thing. Like, we got to revamp the bullpen. So that'll be interesting. Like, there's a lot of intrigue, but I'm not going to spend 10 minutes like I heard on a station yesterday talking about Lance Lynn pitching on a backfield for 3 innings.
Yeah, no, but guys in that bullpen, I think, can perform. King performed really well when coming over last year from the Rangers. Andrew Kittredge is an exciting arm. I think Jojo Romero, when healthy, can be really good. I really liked him at the back end of games when they were using him that way down the stretch last year. So I think there are some legitimate pieces in that bullpen. You've got Giovanni Gallegos, who's obviously coming back and expects to be healthy this year. So, but again, you taxed those bullpen arms that were there last year so much. How can you protect them better this year? And it comes with better use of the starters. And obviously it starts with those starters going deep in games.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Joe, thank you for taking the time this morning. Good luck tonight. Have a good call. SIUE men's basketball, round 2 of the OVC tournament tonight, 9:00 versus Morehead State. And you can listen to Joe on the SIUECougarNetwork.com and right here on KXOK. Time it up with the TV broadcast, man. It's not that hard. Figure it out. Right, Joe?
Exactly. Thank you, Randy.
All right, man. Have a good call.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. That's Joe Pott joining us from Evansville, talking SIUE men's basketball. And I'm telling you, to get Morehead State this early in the tournament, because they did tie for first. So they ended up the 3 seed because of tiebreakers. So you're facing one of the better teams in the conference tonight. You win, and they've already beat them this year. You win this game, SIUE's got a good shot to take this tournament. And how exciting would that be? So I expect a great game tonight from the Cougars. Cougars and Morehead State, 9:00 tonight. Thanks, Joe, I want to thank Joe for calling in here this morning. We got a couple minutes left. Mark, anything on your mind? You want to ask me any questions? You want to fire away?
Are you going back to the Battlehawks? Have you heard?
I have not heard yet.
Yeah,
I have not heard yet.
We want to hear about it.
I know. I hope so.
Yeah,
I've been reaching out to people I know over there, but it's been quiet. So I don't know. All I know is the Battlehawks have been here for 2 seasons, the 2020 season, and then last year I was the PA voice both times. The crowd seemed to enjoy the atmosphere there. And I absolutely loved working those games.
Yeah.
So if anyone in that.
And then they're opening up the Upper Bowl.
Yeah, they're selling tickets up there now.
Now, this is just the St. Louis Battlehawks, right?
Yeah.
That's doing this.
Yeah.
None of the other teams, I don't believe,
I don't think there's ticket interest for other teams. And I don't know that how many other teams are playing in similar size stadiums. I mean, I know, like, for example, I think Washington played in their team's MLS stadium.
Right.
So that seats 20,000. I mean, the Dome seats 60.
Right.
6, I think, total.
Right.
64, something like that. Well, I don't know that we'll ever get to 64, but I think that stadium could get to 45 or 50.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's very doable. And then they've got scheduled one game pretty quick in the seasons that St. Louis City SC, the Baseball Cardinals, and
The Battlehawks
all
play on the same day.
same time
Oh, wow.
in downtown St. Louis. I'm not sure when that is, but it's going to be chaos.
Wow. That's awesome.
We're going to see how good the St. Louis fans are.
Yeah. No, we can't handle it, Mark. Stan Kroenke told us we cannot support it.
No, I seem to think it's going to pack downtown St. Louis.
You guys, obviously, KXOK here, the Spanish language home for City SC.
Yeah.
Season's sort of gotten underway.
Yeah.
So
Kind of slow start for me.
slow start for you, but the crowd, how's the crowd? How is the crowd?
Packed.
Same?
Packed.
Packed, loud, cheering.
Yeah.
I mean, that City soccer crowd is different than like
Yeah.
a Battlehawks crowd,
Right.
right?
I know you called one of the games.
I did PA for one game last year.
Right.
And I attended a couple.
Yeah, and we want you to come back and sit in the booth with us this year.
Do I need to brush up on my Spanish?
You know, we
Yeah.
do halftime interviews that are not with Spanish.
Oh.
I mean, we're bilingual.
There we go.
So
I took Spanish in high school.
did
for
you?
3 years.
Well,
I don't
you're
remember any of it.
I know Ola.
Yeah,
That's
Ola.
it. That's it.
Me amo Randy. That's about it.
Okay, but I'm glad that we're doing it because nobody else wanted to step up and do it. It's just it's just not right.
It's very cool. And can I tell you, like the population and the fan base that speaks Spanish that are also huge soccer fans.
Right.
It's unbelievable. And to have an option here on KXOK where you can listen to the Spanish language broadcast, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And you were talking about the crowd.
Yeah.
If someone has never been to a St. Louis City SC soccer game, not only the team is exciting because when they're working, and it's a team, when they're working together out there on that pitch,
Yeah.
which took me a while to get. I'm like you.
Not the
I didn't
field.
pay attention to soccer until that game.
It's a match, not a game.
Right.
It's a pitch, not a field.
Right.
They wear kits, not uniforms.
Right.
A lot of stuff.
It is. It's a lot. It's a learning curve for many of us.
Yeah.
But the decibel of the crowd.
I know.
And on one end of this stadium, I guess it's a stadium, they've got seats. They're up and they're bolted, so you can't sit down.
Yeah.
It's the cheering section.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they have guys with bullhorns, cowboy hats.
Singing, the flags wearing.
Everybody
Oh, yeah.
gets a flag, and and the drum. They got the big
Oh, yeah.
drum.
Look.
It's
like-
unbelievable.
Yeah, like I said, I did not grow up a fan. I played soccer until about 7th grade. I didn't love it. I never followed professional soccer, never really fought. When we found out we were getting a team, I started to pay a little bit closer attention, started to call some games for SIUE. I have a buddy of mine who lives near me who calls it the beautiful game. And that's what it's called worldwide. Soccer is the beautiful game.
Right.
And as I've been watching it the last 3-4 years, just watching games and calling games and now having a team to root for here, it really is a beautiful sport to watch. It just is. There may not be a lot. I know when I was younger, I'd be like, they only scored 1 goal a game. How exciting can it be?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's constant movement, constant action.
Right.
You're running all kinds of different plays within your system. Everyone moving the way they're
All the
supposed to
time.
move. And when you look at it from the press box and you can see it from up there, it really is a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that pitch. They're
For
really
sure.
is. Hitting a ball off their heads and jumping up and kicking it. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's so
There's a lot of movement.
and the crowds have been awesome. I know my wife said she's been to a lot of games that I've worked over the last 15 years.
Right.
A lot of different environments, a lot of stadiums, a lot of crowds. She said her number one fan experience, was at the City game. From the concessions, the great food options, to the lines, to the restroom, which were short.
Oh yeah.
The stadium was clean, the crowd, the chanting, the game itself. She was like, number one for me. My favorite environment I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And that speaks because she's not a soccer fan either.
Right.
And that speaks to
It's a very acquired. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very cool.
Yeah. It is. It's tremendously cool. We
All
loved
right.
it.
Don't forget, tune in Spanish language broadcast right here on KXOK
Saturday
for
night.
all St. Louis City games. Saturday night is the next match for St. Louis City SC. All right, my name's Randy Molman. My thanks to Joe Pott for joining today. Tune in to SIUE men's basketball right here on KXOK tonight, 9 o'clock, second round of the OVC tournament. Go Cougars. And until next Thursday at 8 o'clock. So long, everybody. The OVC tournament. Go Cougars. And until next Thursday at 8 o'clock. So long, everybody.
KXOK LP St. Louis. Listen to KXOK wherever you go on the free TuneIn app.
Señor, pero yo no soy doctor y yo camino aquí, pues no tengo gran nariz. Es un grito grave, güey, tú te burlas de la ley y te vamos a enseñar que la vas a respetar. Pégale aquí, pégale allá.
Hola, soy Facundo Llenar con Azteca Insurance. Estamos orgullosos de ser parte de nuestra comunidad latina en St. Louis. No solo hablamos tu idioma, también entendemos tu cultura y tus necesidades. Le podemos ayudar con su seguro de casa, auto, negocio y vida. Llámenos al 314-359-9927, 314-359-9927 o chequee nuestra website aztecainsuranceSTL.com. Nosotros trabajamos para usted. Somos brokers con acceso a más de 20 compañías de seguro. Podemos hablar y ver qué es lo mejor para usted, su familia y su negocio. Espero su llamado. ¡Vamos, City!
Nuestros deportes, nuestros equipos.
¡Grítalo, Saint Louis!
Nuestra ciudad.
¡San Luis!
Líder City. En vivo desde los estudios de Líder Sports Media para la señal histórica de KXOK en San Luis. Líder City. La pasión hispana de los deportes en San Luis.
¡Celebra la ciudad del arco!
¿Qué tal, señores de San Luis, amantes futboleros, amantes del fútbol? Estamos completamente en vivo desde los estudios de Líder Sports Media para la señal histórica de KXOK. Qué bonito se escucha eso. Tenemos mucho fútbol de qué hablar. Los Rojos de la Ciudad regresaron a la victoria esta semana y estamos más que contentos porque aparte el equipo recuperó muchas cosas de las que habíamos perdido en los partidos pasados. Tenemos que hablar del partido de la próxima semana, bueno, de esta semana, el partido que 2 de visita se vienen y el primero en St. Austin. Y obviamente, como siempre es costumbre en este programa, tenemos al enemigo íntimo con nosotros. Hoy tenemos visita desde Austin para que nos cuenten qué pasó con el equipo verde. Creo que arrancaron igual de mal que el año pasado, no han ganado, pero bueno, Santiago Ventura nos tiene un invitado y vamos a estar platicando con él y obviamente nosotros vamos a dar el panorama. No le atinamos otra vez al
estuvimos cerca,
pronóstico, cerca. Pero nos quedamos a un gol los dos. Santiago Beltrán, ¿cómo estás esta tarde?
Bien, Héctor, muy contento, pues ya St. Louis despegó en esta temporada, un partido bueno, cantamos 2 goles, se sacó la valla en 0. ¿Qué más se le puede pedir al equipo?
No, pues creo que jugamos bien. Tampoco para echar campanas al vuelo ni otra cosa, pero creo que hicimos un buen partido, Santi. Se recuperaron muchas cosas, lo vuelvo a repetir, se recuperaron muchas cosas. Santiago Beltrán, ¿con qué quieres iniciar el día de hoy? Bueno, vamos a hablar también de lo que está pasando con la Open Cup, porque nadie entiende si se va a jugar, quién juega, cómo jugamos, y parece que cambió todo el dinamismo de este torneo de Copa, que lo más bonito era que todos jugaban y que todos tenían oportunidad de ganar. No vamos a jugar, pero Santiago nos va a explicar esa fórmula porque lleva una semana estudiándola y sigue sin entender. Vamos a ver si hoy nos hace Santiago entender con su paciencia, con su sabiduría, cómo va a estar ese asunto, porque es muy desafortunado lo que pasó con la Open Cup. Creíamos que iban a pasar cosas buenas y pasó todo lo contrario. Santiago Beltrán, arrancamos con el partido de este sábado. Buen partido de San Luis, ¿no? Buen partido a secas, y lo más importante es que creo que ya se confirmó que Celio Pompeu está para ser titular, para ser muy importante y para comerse todo el equipo él solo, ¿no?
Sí, pues fue la confirmación de Celio Pompeu. Un gran partido, gol, asistencia, fue titular y bueno, es una de esas oportunidades que los jugadores tienen que aprovechar. Ya había sido titular también en el partido anterior, pero no partido anterior no fue un gran partido para St. Louis, el partido contra Real Salt Lake. Y bueno, en este segundo partido de la MLS le dieron la oportunidad y desde temprano, desde el minuto 7, sí, ya sacudió ahí el poste de este equipo de New York City FC con una muy buena jugada y después ese gol que se inventó, arrancó, prendió la moto y tenía jugadores allá a sus lados, pero vio espacio, hizo un par de regates y encontró el espacio para rematar.
Sí, tal vez el gol y la del poste eran muy parecidas. En el poste se atrevió a tirar de fuera del área, en el gol sí condujo más, se quitó el de la izquierda a la derecha y ya nada más cacheteó, ¿no? Creo que encontrando su camino, encontrando su manera de jugar, es Celio, pero a ver, más allá de Celio, que lo hizo muy bien porque dio asistencia, recuperó, ayudó en la marcación, buenos movimientos, nunca perdió un mano a mano, siempre fue importante como lo ha sido siempre que tiene minutos con San Luis. Pero creo que San Luis, Santi, encuentra una alineación que pocas veces había utilizado y unos movimientos que poco había utilizado en el transcurso del año, ¿no? Juega con un centro delantero, y digo entre comillas centro delantero porque Adénira nunca jugó de centro delantero, ¿no? Jugó de un falso 9 porque siempre se botaba a recibir atrás o a recibir y lo seguían los centrales o los laterales, y el que quedaba en el centro era Jackson, y cuando Jackson queda tirado, estos dos traían una fiesta de cuando yo entro tú te vas, cuando tú sales yo entro. O sea, creo que esa dinámica en el centro del área o entre los centrales, Santi, le dio mucho juego y muchas oportunidades a San Luis. Sale Adéniran, sale Jackson y el que remata como centro delantero es Celio, pero al mismo tiempo por el otro lado salía Jackson, salía Adéniran y el que terminaba en el centro era Vasilev, que hay que decirlo, a ver,
oigan a Héctor Vega, por favor.
Tengo mi libretita y resulta que Vasilev tiene 0 balones perdidos, Santi, cuando el último partido había tenido 15 balones perdidos.